I'm so excited for this. This is a good day, guys. Our guest today is a certified keto nutrition health coach. She has also amassed a following on her YouTube channel, which has now have almost a million views and growing. She's also had amazing interviews of experts and influencers with her goal to create a sustainable lifestyle that you will enjoy and help you thrive. Her jolly, energetic, charismatic personality makes her videos so much fun to watch, guys. I hope you stick around because uh, her story is so incredible. Man, I can't wait for you guys to hear this. If you had listened since the beginning, we are all about building the right mindset. This person definitely has that. What an honor. I'm so happy to be joined by Lilie Kane. Lilie, welcome to the show.
Awesome introduction. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be exciting. I'm excited to chat.
Thank you so much for coming on. Man, what an incredible path you created for yourself. I want to start by saying people all get here from different walks of life, some harder than others, but we all strive to for the ultimate goal, which is to find a sustainable, healthy lifestyle that we can enjoy and not just survive, but thrive as well. But sometimes life just have other plans. Things happen in our life. Life happens that we didn't choose. We just don't have control in a lot of these things. I love that you are so open in sharing your story. Um, I was reading up on your story. You had grown up in a really tough environment, um, having been through so much, but you never gave in, never gave up. You know, I'd like to get in your story because I truly believe that you can make it from anywhere, as long as you believe it. You've done it. You've owned your story. When some would just bury it underneath so many layers, you faced it, you told it. Some people can learn or let them know that they're not alone, right? Sometimes we just let our circumstances define who we become. From the outside looking in, you've dealt with it. And here you are now, when others might have said, woe is me, you decided that you just want to fight for it. And I want to get in your story. I'd like you to start. You decide where you want to start, but can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here?
Absolutely. Like you said, we all go through different things in life, but for me, my story starts when I was a kid. I was just born into a family of parents who were addicted to drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
My parents ended up getting a divorce when I was really young. I don't even remember how old I was. Maybe I was 3 or 4 years old, but they my mom made it really difficult for my dad to then visit and see my sister once she got custody over us.
Mm.
And so my dad would come around, but my sister and I kind of had this opinion of him that he was like a scary guy.
Mm.
And so even if he was bringing us Christmas presents or something, we would run away from him and hide and tell the teachers to call the police on him if he showed up at our school. And then our mom
Mm.
was addicted to alcohol, even though she was the one who gained custody. And so eventually my dad stopped coming around, and my mom would see other men, and other men would be in and out of our household trying to replace our dad. And my mom ended up meeting a man when I was 6. His name was John, and they were on and off dating for 7 years. So he was a part of my life for the majority of my growing up. That when my mom and him officially broke up, she still allowed us to see him on the weekends, even though he wasn't ever like, they were never married. He's not like any blood relationship or anything like that. But my mom needed him because she was unemployed. She just used like food stamps and like would
Mm.
whatever she can get from the government, even though she was totally capable of getting a job. She just was unfortunately laid off from her job for being drunk at work and didn't really want to ever regain a job after that, because she realized she could get money from the government and wake up early in the morning and start drinking wine and drive her kids to school drunk. And so moral of the story, the short story is just that I haven't seen my dad since I was probably 5. I haven't seen my mom since I was 16 when I became an emancipated minor and therefore moved out of my house for the second time because the first time I moved out when I was 13 years old. But just having to grow up at a young age and be the mom and be the person to take care of myself and take care of my sister because we just didn't have any adult figure there to support us and just burying myself in school because it was like my outlet of like finding positivity was to go to school and be in track and field and be in volleyball and be in art club and photo club and volunteer groups and church and just be involved in anything that I could to bring more positivity and joy into my life. So that's the short story.
The thing that you left out was you were exceptional in school. I saw your interview on, was that CNBC?
Yep.
And you were captain of your of what was
Track
that, track?
team.
Yeah, track team. Yeah. um wow, and they told your story. You were in sports, you were doing great in academics, you are in community helping the kids, you're doing all of these things, whilst everything outside of school, um despite of everything's happening around you, you have such a confidence, the way you carried yourself. You were an exceptional leader, and you didn't let that drag you down. Um,
Right. I know most people, if that they were in that kind of situation, it would be
yeah, it
really,
could go south real quick,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Could go south. How have you dealt with difficulties? Because this is so important. And I think just getting into food, like there's a direct impact, your emotions, everything that's happening around you. Woe is me, everything's happening around me. And then these emotions come in, and you make a decision, you form bad habits around that, and it's just, it can snowball from there. But you having overcome it, not just overcome, you've excelled in other areas, which is just blows my mind in how you did it. Because I want to pick your brain on this, because this is so important with decisions, with decision making, whether big or small. How do you deal with difficulties? How do you process it? Because you clearly didn't let it define you. You clearly didn't let it drag you down. How do you process it?
When I was a kid going through it all and
Mm,
being raped and being abused and being
mm,
hit and being yelled at, I knew that it wasn't normal. Like I knew other family and friends, they'd say like this isn't normal for the police to be coming over to your house every single
mm,
weekend. But because it was just like what I was grown up into, it just was normal to me that I didn't know like what it was to not have that.
mm,
So it's tough because people will say like how did you do it? And I'm like it was just so normal to me at that point that if I
mm,
would have had a wonderful childhood and then had that, then I would have it would have been like shocking. But
mm,
because that's what I grew up with, it was just so normalized that after that point,
mm,
everything seemed easy and
mm,
everything seemed like so much more positive, so much more wonderful. The
mm,
day I became emancipated, it was like I just felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders that I didn't have to be afraid anymore, afraid that my mom was going to just like randomly show up or
mm,
like afraid that, just like the ability to not feel fear and to like feel free at that point in
mm,
life. Like nothing scares me. I mean,
mm,
I'm sure there are things that could scare me, but even let's say with the epidemic and things that happened in the past year and a half or past almost 2 years now, I was like, yeah, I mean, things could be
mm.
worse. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot of. I didn't want to be
man.
trapped in my
It's the
house.
way you think about it, really, because you thought about it as, okay, um, it could be worse, right? Because you could also think about it as, oh, why me, right? It's so easy to get dragged down, right? Why me? Why me? Why should I try, right? Some people would say, why should I try? Why should I even try? A lot of things are happening around me that's not going for me. Why should I even try? But you went the other way. Okay, it could be worse. I love school. How I just want to, what was your motivation in school, or doing well in school, in sports? What was the motivation?
Well, actually, my grades for school, ironically
Mm,
enough, my mother said that she would never pay for us to go to college or support
mm,
us going to college because she never did, or nobody in my family had ever gone to college. But she still, whatever, for whatever reason, wanted us to have straight A's. So, as a young person, I was just taught like you
mm,
get straight A's, not an A minus. That will
mm,
be, if you get an A minus, that doesn't count. But
mm,
like you have to get straight A's. So that was just kind of like, I don't know, maybe ingrained in me with like maybe it was like the only thing I had control over was like the
mm,
control over my grades versus I didn't have
mm,
control over everything else in my environment. And then I've always just been really competitive. So I like winning. I've loved playing
mm.
games. And so when it comes to like track and field or anything where I can be competitive, it's just really fun to test my boundaries and see how far I can push myself.
You're so energetic. You're so happy. You're so jolly. That's why it's such a joy to watch you on YouTube. um, wow, it's incredible. We talk about habits, and we pick up habits along the way. We build our own habits. We whether you picked it up from your environment over time, we carry it into our adulthood, right? Life can be hard and bad habits can form when we are stressed, and it's up to us to choose. Having a hard life sometimes makes you susceptible to bad habits. Sometimes it manifests as food addiction. Like we talked about, sometimes we blame it on ourselves. Why me? Only sometimes food can give you comfort. So I always want to start with our relationship with food. When you got emancipated at 16 years old, basically fending for yourself, what were you eating at that time? First of all.
It is so strange too, looking back on like what a standard American diet is, because like when I grew up, I legitimately thought I was eating like very healthy. I'm having macaroni and cheese,
Mm,
peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, pasta with chicken, but I'm always
mm,
having broccoli and spinach, and like so that cancels out anything that could ever be bad. But I mean, overall, I felt like I was eating pretty healthy. And then,
mm.
hindsight now, I look back and I'm like, yeah, peanut butter and jelly sandwich is not a health food.
Okay, the door to nutrition. What has led you to fitness and nutrition? Because what a strange path right now. I don't think it's typical to to be on this road and leads to fitness and nutrition. Where is there anyone that helped you get into it, or is there someone that you're looking up to that got you into it? What's the story?
Sure. So I did well in high school with my athletics. That in
Mm,
college, I ran track and field competitively for my school for college.
mm,
And at that point in time, it was taught like you eat a bunch of carbs, eat a bunch of pasta, especially
mm,
before race day. And because I was working out from majority probably 3 or 4 hours a day, but upwards of like 6 to 8 hours a day, whether it's like we're having a race day, competitive day, but I would be working out so much that I was able to eat a ton of food and not
mm,
think like anything of it. I'm a skinny person. I'm allowed to eat pie. I'm allowed to eat lots of
mhm,
cookies. And it wasn't until I went to college where it really started turning into like I'm eating 5 desserts in a day because,
mm,
or I mean, those are just like the actual desserts, cookies and pies, let alone the other desserts that don't count, like a
mhm,
cinnamon roll for breakfast and all the other things
mm,
that aren't really that we call foods but are more like desserts. But I graduated college being like, I can eat whatever I want. I'm still young and
mm.
my
Still get
metabolism.
away with it. Yeah.
Yep. But slowly started watching my muscle turn to fat and was in denial about it as well. But then I met my fiance and he had done keto 4 years prior because of Keto Savage. He was
Mm,
into bodybuilding and he had struggled with his own health challenges.
mhm,
So he found keto. And then when I met him, I was like, let's do the Lillie diet. That's quesadillas, paninis, pasta.
mm,
And then he started noticing things with his health because he's a little bit older than me. So
mm,
he started noticing things. I was 22 at that time. And I was like, everything's wonderful. Let's eat whatever we want to eat. And
mm,
he slowly started switching back into keto, which then at that point, I kind of just thought, well, it's not fun for me to eat cookies by myself. It's not fun for me to eat
mhm.
chips and things by myself. So I just slowly started buying less of the foods that I used to
Mm,
buy,
mhm,
more foods he was buying. And then one thing led to another where he was like, I'm going to try this carnivore diet thing. And I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'll try it just to like see how it
Mm-hmm.
goes because it's simple and easy. Now we've incorporated a little bit more foods. Maybe we're more like keto now, but just depending on the day. Some days we're eating carnivore meals, some days carnivore days. But for the most part, I'm just going to go ahead and say animal based or meat based way of eating. So my inspiration or motivation or the reason I got into it was because of my fiance, which is always something people say. So you started eating this way because of a boy? Sure. If we want to say that, sure. But I really started eating this way because it's simple for us to cook
Mm-hmm.
together, to clean together, to buy the same groceries. So it's just out of simplicity and like the food all tastes good. I love bacon, I love eggs, I love beef and steak and avocados and all this food. So for me to not have chips because of a boy, whoop de whoop. I found new alternatives.
Wow. Did he help in convincing you? Has he tried convincing you, or how long did it last for you to since he started back in the keto diet? How long did it start until you started the keto diet?
Um, it's a good question because I honestly like we talk. He and I will talk about it now because I'll be like, "What you were eating back then that way?" And I just didn't even realize it because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like ever a thing where he's like, "I'm starting keto today." It was just like, "Oh, I'm just gonna see if bread is bothering me. I'm not gonna have bread anymore. Oh, I'm gonna take a break on the pasta." So it
Uh-huh.
was, and then I was like the human garbage disposal who would finish all the food afterwards. So he's like, I'm not going to eat any more pasta. Then I had all of the pasta bags to go through from Costco or whatever. So I was eating all of the rice, I was eating all of it. And then I wasn't going to go and rebuy it because he wasn't buying it again. So
Mm,
I can't say exactly how long he was doing it before I did it because it was like not like a certain date that he said, I'm going to start it. It was just like slowly taking foods
mhm.
out to see
What
which one would trigger.
what did you think of it first when he was talking about it? I want to know your first impression because a lot of people that haven't heard keto. Have you heard of keto before you met him, or
No, I hadn't.
no? So he was telling you keto for the first time. So what did you think of it?
I initially, when he had said it, I was like, this is a good idea for me to not have as much sugars because I
Mm-hmm.
knew like I had dessert every single day. I thought I would literally break out in a rash or die if I didn't have a dessert every day. When I like traveled all over different
Mm-hmm.
countries. Whenever I go to someone's house to spend the night, I
Mm-hmm.
always brought a piece of dessert with me just in case they didn't have like cookies or
Mm-hmm.
something. So I always had it with me whenever I travel or go to someone's house.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said like, oh, it's like reducing the amount of carbs you're having and the amount of sugars you're having, and then I was like, well, that would be a nice thing for me to try. I'm going to try like a month of doing like no sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I couldn't do a month with no sugar
Mm-hmm.
without first trying to take away the fruit. So I did a month with
Mm.
no fruit first. And then
So
I was
what
like,
did he so did he say did he disclose the starchy foods that you can't have like potatoes or carrots you can't have a lot of things that you can't have that you didn't know that had carbs because I had a lot of first time I hearing about keto was I didn't know that other foods have carbs that vegetables had carbs like I was blown away with how much food because in the beginning I was like this is so restrictive in the beginning but it turns out I love it. I love avocado. When we started to list the things that I could have, like okay, I'm all in. I'm all in. But what was your reaction when you can't have carbs like at all, like nothing?
well, and that's the thing too, is like when I grew up, I did not have a single nutrition class. I was
Mhm,
never like in my college nutrition course was just like, don't eat red meat because cow farts
mhm.
are killing the planet. That's like the extent of what I took away from nutrition class. Um, and then but someone had told me even in college like, oh, if you just like cut down your carbs a little bit you would be really defined, and I was like, okay, the only thing I know that has
Mm,
carbs is bread. Don't even know that pasta.
right,
I didn't even know that like
exactly.
only bread. um but yeah, going back to like him telling me that it's like reducing all the carbs that are in other kinds of foods. Again,
Mhm,
his intention with keto was never like I have to eat keto or I need to eat keto. It was just, I think this is causing me a problem. I'm not going to eat this. Okay, I'm thinking
mm.
now
It's a good
broccoli might
approach.
cause me an issue. So now I'm going to take away broccoli. So it was
Mm,
just like eliminating foods slowly
mm. Yep.
without even the like I need to
Yeah.
do keto. It was just I need to find what foods are causing me
Yeah, yeah.
reactions.
That's
And
good. He
yeah.
didn't label things as bad. Like he just labeled things, oh, it's not good for me. I probably shouldn't have it. Like,
Right. And even at
yeah.
this time too, because a lot of people think like I have to eat this. I'm never going to be able to eat an avocado again because right now like that's something that he, But he's like, it's not that I can never eat an avocado. It's just at this
Mm,
point in
mm,
time, my body
mm,
is just needing to take a break from it or needs to reintroduce it in a new way. But I think a lot of people too when they think about keto or carnivore, it's
mm,
that
mm,
you can never have another
mm,
macadamia nut or something like that. It's
mm,
like no,
mm.
just maybe at this time it's causing you a reaction.
That the reason why I asked because I want to know how you were convinced, right? Because you heard it from your boyfriend, right? Because I want to learn how to convince people, right?
It's
Um,
okay. So he convinced me just literally by leading by example. He never told me, Lily, don't
that's
eat
the
this,
best
it's
way.
bad for you. I would just want to eat donuts. And then I'd be like, let's go get a donut. He'd be like, okay, like I'm not going to have one, but I'll totally drive you and take you to get one. And just
Okay.
that alone, I'm like, oh, like I don't want to be that person. So I think it
What
was just
did
like,
you think he was being too extreme, or what do you
no,
think? No?
I don't think he was
Okay.
being too extreme. I don't know. I don't know. It was just like his
Because
way of
people think that way sometimes. Like, okay, that's a donut. Okay, well, donut can help. Like, you know how people are. But that's great because yeah, because I my wife found keto from me, and then now she's doing keto, so it's a now a family affair. Uh, so I want to talk about your certification because you had two, right? You're certified for health and nutrition, and then you're certified for keto nutrition. What's the difference? What's the biggest difference, or is there any?
So one is health and life. So that could be
Mm-hmm.
things more like even we're talking, if people wanted to talk about finance or
Mm-hmm.
mindset or
Mm,
sleep or just like all things that encompass life, relationships, just
mm-hmm.
anything that, whereas keto is more like, let's get the diet down. And even still
Mm,
with keto specifically, like I'm sure you know too, keto is so broad. If someone tells me like I eat keto, I'm like, that doesn't really tell me what you eat, just
mm-hmm.
because you can be a vegetarian and be keto, you can be meat heavy keto, you can be
Mm-hmm.
lazy keto. I mean, like they have all the
Yeah.
different. So when people the I don't love the titles and the labels because as soon as you have something that's not like
Mm-hmm.
I'll have sweet potatoes, technically wouldn't be keto. But
Mm-hmm.
if you eat like a bite of a sweet potato, then that would be
Yeah.
keto. So it's like it's all complicated when it's just like how many carbs are you eating? And I think like for me,
Mm-hmm.
my biggest message or the thing I really want people to like hear is that it's not the label or
Mm-hmm.
the food. It's like what makes you feel good? What makes you
Mm,
like are you waking up pain free? Do you have mental clarity? How is your
mm,
sleep? Are you having the ability to exercise? So it's like, is it the sweet potato that's
mm-hmm.
causing you the problem, or is
Mm,
it like the bread? Like those
mm,
are
yeah,
different
yeah.
kinds of carbs. So it's like, what are you eating and how is it making me feel? Is it the Oreo or is it the avocado?
Yeah. So when you started keto, when were you sold on it? Like, what did you experience, or how long did it take for you to say, "This is my lifestyle now"? Like, yeah,
That's a great question
that
because
moment, that moment. Okay, okay, I could do this. This can be my lifestyle, right? Because what was the goal in the beginning? Like when you started keto, okay, I'm gonna try it for a few days, like see if I like it. Like, when did that start from that to my lifestyle now?
yeah, I guess like the first month I went without sugar, it was pretty shocking to me because I was
Mhm.
like never thought that I would be able to do it. Um,
That's
and
me too.
so once I did that, then it was kind of like awesome. Like I don't have to feel like I'm missing out if I don't have a piece of chocolate or a cookie or a brownie or something after dinner and have that for like dessert because I mean we all know that those things aren't health promoting. Is having a bite of a cookie really detrimental to a young person?
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, still it was. I mean, it's not again, it's not health promoting, but yeah, when I realized that I don't need those things to make me
Hmm.
happy, because I think like a lot of times too, like even my family, my friends to this day will say, Lily, I'm not going to stop eating cookies because cookies bring me happiness. And if I don't have them, my
Mm.
life's gonna be miserable. And I felt that exact way. So I'm never gonna
Mm.
say like that's a silly way of thinking. But now I've gotten to the point where I don't rely on cookies for my happiness. I find other
Mm.
things that bring me happiness. And the other thing too is some people will say, well, your keto diet, it's so restrictive. And you're like, Well, every meal I'm so excited to eat. I love eating the
Yep.
buttery eggs and the steaks and the whatever
I don't
foods
think that
are.
way anymore. I don't think that way anymore, Lily.
Yeah, because now you're eating and you're eating your
Yeah.
food and you're like, I love everything that I'm eating and I look forward to my meals. Whereas prior to maybe eating keto or something, you're like, this is gonna totally stink. I'm gonna be deprived of all of the greatest things in life. And then you find like one of the first desserts I ever made was keto Oreos. It's like you can make an
Mm.
Oreo. So I
Yes,
mean,
ma'am.
and they were even sweeter tasting than a regular Oreo. So yeah, I think like as soon as I made it my first month without having to have real like fake food and processed food and started feeling like really good mentally and being able to like notice my skin
Mhm.
was clearing up. I have less cramps in my menstrual cycle. I lost a ton of weight. I mean, I lost like 15 pounds, which
Mhm.
I'm only 5'2". It's pretty noticeable if I
Mhm.
have weight on or not. And my goal was never weight loss. But it just like when I started realizing like this is effortless and I can eat as much, I I can eat as much as I want because the foods are so satiating that I'm so full that like I don't need to snack constantly and have another pretzel stick and have some goldfish every,
Mhm.
it was just like, wow, this is really enjoyable and easy. And it makes me feel kind of empowered that I don't have to be kind of manipulated by food science.
Wow. That's crazy, right? That how we find keto, we find keto in a lot of ways in different walks of life, from different backgrounds, and we find keto to be our lifestyle, right? Wow, amazing, amazing transformation. How about your clarity, mental clarity? What can you say about like that aspect of keto?
I feel when I as a woman, I can at least speak for my what I thought as a woman
Mhm.
that it is totally normal that we cry 3 times a week,
Mhm.
and we watch a chick flick and we cry at like anything we cry, and that's just because we're a woman,
Mhm.
or that's what I was at least that's what I thought. And then time passed where now it's like my I don't ever cry. I'm watching a chick flick. I don't need
Mm.
to cry. Or I just feel like my mood is not like a burst of energy and then a crash and then like feeling good and then something small like makes me really upset. I feel like I just feel like I'm more at peace through my
Mhm.
core, through my mind, where you can be very mean to me and I'm not going to have that quick reaction. I'm more patient. I'm just more, I just feel like I'm a little bit less easy to be bothered.
Yeah, no. Yeah. For me too, I was when I started keto, before I started keto, I was somebody that is having difficulties with focus. I have you know, I c- I don't remember finishing a book before starting keto, and now I have multiple books that I finished in from multiple areas of life, and so it keto just gave me so much focus and so much energy, so much enthusiasm that I cannot explain. Because but I could get into the science, but it's just, how do we explain this way of lifestyle to people is so difficult because it's so different, right? It's so
Yeah,
different.
you
Where
sound
do we even
crazy.
start? I could say they could see us losing weight and that you could tell them what it was, but really, how do you explain it? How about you, Lily? Where do you start explaining it to people? Explaining keto, what aspect of keto do you start with? Because it could be mindset, it could be how the fuel the body needs, or glucose versus fat. Where do you start with it?
I guess it just depends on like why someone would come to me. And when somebody first says like,
Mm,
"Oh, I want to start eating keto," I'm gonna say, "Okay, well, why?" Because
mm,
I want to understand like what's the thinking. Sometimes it's like, "Well, I just thought that was the healthiest way to eat," and it's like, "Well, I mean, it just depends on who you ask." But you're coming to me, so
yep.
I'm gonna say, of course. But otherwise, you can ask somebody else, and they'll tell you it's vegetarian, or they'll tell like there's so
Mm,
many different ways of eating that for me to even pretend that I'm gonna say this is the way and the only way, I'm not gonna go there because I just know
yep.
that there's we all are going to think that way about what we eat and do. But I would say initially, I would say the mindset is probably the biggest shift with anybody,
Mm,
whether their goal is health or weight loss or to get better sleep or to feel more energy, I think whatever reason it is that somebody wants to make a change in their life, it usually all has to start first with their mind, because, you know, if we have the same mind, the same thoughts about something, we're going to do the same actions. And if we do the same actions, we're going to get the same
Mm.
results. And if we get the same results, that it was like, that was
Yeah.
because we didn't change our mind. So it's for when we first work on our mind and how we think about things and what's our goal, what's our why behind
Mm.
doing something. And it has to be a powerful why. I was recently talking to somebody who I was coaching, and I asked them, they said that they were doing a leptin diet, a leptin resistant diet. And I was like, well,
Mm.
why are you doing that? And they're like, well, I found these friends who were really nice and they were doing it. And so I just started doing it. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, well, you're not leptin resistant, are you? So like, you don't have to eat that way. Like, what do you like? Is there other things that you could be doing or eating that you want or that might make you feel better
Mm.
or not be coming to me? Because, you know, sometimes the why is not as strong. And if my why is like, I want to look good, that's not going to be as powerful to keep
Mm.
me going as like, I want to be able to play with my grandkids. I want to wake up pain free. I want to be able to have a healthy heart. I want to be able to climb up a mountain and
Mm.
travel. And so it's like having that deeper why, because sometimes our why is not as powerful as we might think.
Mm. So taking action is a tough one. What is that one thing that you can say to a client that always leads to that individual taking action? Like, do you say something to them to get them motivated, or stories, or you know how just always lead to them taking action? Is there one thing?
I guess it would be whatever I can say that can connect with somebody. So, like, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
if the person's like going through a tough time,
Mm-hmm.
then I say, hey, I was there too. And like, look at me now. I'm like super happy. Or if
Mm.
someone's saying, it just like, I can just kind of pinpoint where somebody else is. And it's all that we all really just want to feel connected and we all want to have that sense of community too. So, like, if we ever feel like a loner or like we're doing something wrong, or if I were to come to you and try to help you with something and I'm like, well, you're doing it wrong. You know, it's like, it's just the way in which we can feel like we are connected with one another and feel like, you know, there's hope, and show that there's an, you know, like I want to be an example, like this is where you are, this is I was totally there too, or I'm there right now, you and I we're on this together, like
Mhm.
let's both try and do this. Okay, I'll see you next month. Let's keep each other motivated.
What's the most common thing that they come to you with, or the common thing they're coming from? Like, are they coming from a place where they got diagnosed with something, or is it just what's the most common thing that you see that people come from?
I, I have it from all over the place. I mean, I
Mhm.
have people who are younger than me, who are like
Mhm.
16, who are trying to,
Really?
who are not eating enough food. I have people who are retired disabled veterans who are in their 60s, who are
Mhm.
trying to lose weight. So it's like, I kind of feel like it's like all over the place, but I would say the majority of the time it's coming for weight loss and meal plan
For weight
ideas.
loss. Yeah. So what's uh what's the common thing with people that you've seen that had seen success? What's the one thing that's common with those people, compared to those people that can't sustain the diet?
Mindset.
Mm.
Number one, like I had this one gentleman who was like, I told him that I used to take expo pens and I would write on my mirror what my goals
Mm-hmm.
were for the month, and then I'd break them down into my goals for the week. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm buying expo pens right now and I'm writing all over my windows. And
Wow.
it's like being, and sometimes too, like, and I'm sure you feel this way, but I get
Mhm.
this way too, where I will set my goals and I'm like super motivated and I'm ready to do this thing. And then a week will pass by and I forgot.
Mm.
Like, it's
Yeah.
like you can get so motivated and you just fall off for a little bit. And so I think a
Mm.
lot of times people just want someone to talk to get them back on focused and just like get them
Mm.
back. A lot of times people know what to do and know what's right. You know, a lot of people who are probably listening to this podcast know like eating chips and cookies and pizza and drinking beer, like none of those things are health promoting. Like, you
Mm.
know
Mm.
that we don't have to tell people that. But when we just like, can people have someone to talk to or to work through it with them, or just like to strategize what foods can I replace those with? Because a lot of times it's like if you just tell people that you're removing things, you need to be able to replace it so that people have something to look forward to versus like now I have nothing. And I
Mm,
even talked to Dr. Robert Sivis before where he said that everyone has dessert. So even if you think, no, I
mm,
don't have dessert, he's like, well, maybe your dessert is you take a walk after dinner, or maybe you watch a movie, or maybe
mm,
you play cards, but we all do something that fills that same void or
mm.
fills that period where we're eating or binging on foods that we know aren't necessarily health promoting.
What's the goal in the first week? What do you think is a good goal for your first week? Say I'm a client and I'm just starting keto, never heard of keto. What's what should I focus on in the first week?
My I will see I would have to go through a whole like trying to figure out your
Mm,
personality type, but
mm,
just like for simplicity, I personally am not the kind of person who wants to rip it off like a band-aid. I want to move like the turtle is going to win the race. So I would
mm,
just say like what is something you can realistically not eat this week? Like is it let's if we have different food
mm,
groups, we have okay, we have alcohol maybe, we have um breads, pastas, rices,
mm,
like our grains. Then we have fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy. Like we're gonna just eliminate one little group.
mm,
So for me, like I had to do fruit first. I could not just rip it. Like I could
mm,
not do the dessert first. But or maybe you're like I eat pasta every week. I'd say okay, let's try to replace the pasta with cauliflower rice or zucchini noodles or egg noodles or almond flour or something or the other. But just I would say initially knowing something that I could easily give up for the week, and then just keep that going, and then take another thing out and another thing out, and but always replacing it too.
What do you think of cheat days and cheat meals? So how do you talk to your clients about that? Is that something that you talk about, or is that something that they talk about to you? And when how do you stop like a cheat day to a cheat week or to a cheat month? Because that happens a lot. I talk to a lot of people that happens a lot because one day could be, a week, especially now, Thanksgiving over there, right? And the holidays are coming up very, very soon. And so I think this is just something that we need to talk about right now. What do you say, or what's the mindset around like cheat meals?
I guess cheat meals would be what do you feel like you're missing out on? Again, like
Mm,
is it cookies? Because we can make keto cookies, we can
mm.
make keto cakes. Now that's where it also can turn into a slippery slope of like, well, I'm gonna eat them every day. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like I try to eat for nutrition first, and then if there's extra, if I'm still hungry, then let's eat other foods. But
Mhm,
if the goal is like am I honoring my body? Am I helping my body? Is this feeling good? Again, what's my why? Isn't my why to like wake up pain free? It's eating this chip, eating this donut. And the thing is, I just feel like there's so many replacements for things like chips. I eat carnivore crisps. They taste like they have the same crunch effect.
mhm, mhm,
They convince me I'm eating a chip. But once I feel like initially when you first start, it can be kind of overwhelming. But once you kind of get through the hump, it just seems like you kind of wake up from that fog of like these were all fake foods, like why would I ever have eaten these foods in the first place?
mhm,
And so you kind of get frustrated. I feel like sometimes you kind of get mad when you start realizing like I was eating goldfish and gummies and all
mhm,
these foods at school that they gave me at
mhm,
school,
mhm,
at vending machines, at
mhm,
hospitals. You can go and the vending machine is filled with all that stuff. And you kind of get like a little bit angry when you see these foods and you're like, I don't want those things. So maybe if someone initially is like, I want a cheat day because I'm missing out on having a Dr. Pepper, like remind yourself, like, what's really in this Dr. Pepper? I've
mhm,
watched YouTube videos where someone drops a tooth inside and the tooth decays in like 30 minutes or whatever, and there's Zevias. There's just always other alternatives. So for me, if I if my family was around and I wanted to go and have a cookie, for me, because I know myself, I would just have the one cookie. And honestly, I would just think about all of the processed and chemical artificial stuff in it that I would feel like worse after eating it anyway, mentally.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but I think initially, if someone's trying to do a cheat day, they just have to ask themselves, why do I want the cheat day?
mhm,
And what can I do for my cheat day? And why do I have to call it a cheat day? Because
mhm,
I have a cheat day, but it's more of just like I'm eating bacon, which is like my favorite thing, though I don't think bacon's like a healthy food, but bacon makes me happy. I have blueberries, I have sweet potatoes, and for me, like that's my cheat day, but it's really just my I don't eat these foods normally. They're not in my personal health journey, not doing damage to my personal health. But if I ate sweet potatoes every single day, because they have a lot of oxalates and things like that, it gives my
Yeah.
knees cramps or knees become achy. So yeah, just the focus always should be, am I honoring my body? Do I feel good? Why am I doing this? And then when you have your cheat day, you'll end up feeling like, I don't even want any of these foods. They kind of freak me out now.
it's it seems like it's more of a, if there's, if you can make keto cookies, if you can make alternatives, then it just becomes a mind game, right? It just
Yeah,
becomes like more of a mindset game. Like, what are you really craving? Because we can make that, right? Because we can make a healthier version of that. Or is it just something that you're not dealing with inside of you, right? That's something that you have to deal with, sit down, peel the layers out, and really understand why you're feeling that way, right? It's more of a mindfulness thing. Do you have mindfulness techniques, tools that you incorporate in your with your clients?
with them, I try to. Just depends on
Mhm.
who it is. But
Yeah.
I always say, for like, I practice gratitude, so
Mhm.
giving thanks just for the things that I have, even things that sometimes we forget are just like so minor and simple. Like when you're sick and you can't, and you have to blow your nose and you can't breathe out of your nose. Like today, I'm grateful I can breathe out of my nose. I'm grateful I have clothes.
Love that.
Legitimately, there's so many people without clothes. I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. Legitimately,
Perspective.
because because I think a lot of times we're thinking we're lacking. Like right now, I want to have a bigger house. I want to have a better car. I want to have nicer clothes. I want to be able to afford better things. But you have so many things that you can be so grateful for today, that when you start living in the present moment and realizing like it's life's pretty great.
Mm.
Even like if you're going through some tough times, like there are so many things that you can be grateful for, that the people, even if they have they when I've heard so many times where people, they have literally nothing, and but they're the happiest people in the world, because they just are so
Wow.
um you have life.
Yeah. I love the messages back there, by the way. Like, those are amazing. Definitely grateful to you for coming on and sharing your story, Lily. Um you've definitely overcame a lot, and you can't do that without being grateful for things, like having the right perspective, having the right mindset. You talk about just, having that desire to want it for yourself. um Matt, it has been a blast. Lily, your advocacy, um yeah, where can they find you? Where can the listeners find you, Lily?
You can find me mostly on YouTube at Lilie Kane,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also on Instagram, Lilie Kane underscore YouTube, on Facebook page, Lilie Kane, TikTok. You can catch me on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, Lilie Kane underscore YouTube. And then if anybody ever wants prayers or someone to talk to, you can shoot me an email. I might not respond within a couple days, but I will see the email and send prayers your way too.
Awesome. Before we end it, I'd like to do some fun Q&A. End it on a lighter note. All
Awesome.
right. If you would go on a day trip, days on the road, what do you bring with you as a snack? In that snack box. What's in that snack box?
I've got carnivore Chris. I've
Mm.
got sardines and ghee and um, keto bricks.
Mm. How- I've never had
You need to look up Robert Sykes Keto Savage. They are
Keto
like, they have so
Savage.
many different flavors between keto, cookies and cream, keto bricks,
Mhm.
and butter maple pecan and chocolate and all sorts of good ones.
That's sounds like my jam. Sounds like my jam. Okay. List five must-have items in your grocery list.
Eggs,
Mm-hmm.
beef, salmon,
Mm.
uh, One Earth liver supplements or organ mix
Mm.
supplements, and bacon.
Awesome. You have to have bacon. Lily, thank you so much once again for telling your story. What an inspiration. You've inspired me for sure. You've impacted me. I was just uh, going through your story, reading up on your story. I can't believe it. You're such a positive role model for a lot of people, and please continue to tell your story, because there's someone out there that needs to hear this and would help motivate them into finally overcoming whatever's limiting them, right? So thank you, Lily. I appreciate you once again for coming on, sharing your story.
Thank you so much. This is so great. And keep doing what you're doing and sharing people's stories. We all need more people like you who are giving people the opportunity to talk, and also just sharing your story and all the learning you've been doing, and bringing more health and hope to people. So thank you.
I'm honored. Lily, thank you.